Good day, everybody. Brian here. It is July 6th. Okay, so the usual interview question posted in a C++ coding group on Reddit, CPP. Interview questions, path planning in C++. I've already covered that topic in a past video, so I'm not going to ramble on about that. But there was an interesting resource here of a book called Cracking the Coding Interview on or grind leak code. And I've talked about that before. There's no way to know precisely what they'll ask. So you'll need to learn everything you can. So that's a key there. Learn everything you can. Because usually, from what I've seen and heard, I don't know if it's true or not, it's going to be interns that'll be interviewing you. Or people like juniors that'll be interviewing before the big shots start taking interest in you because all the other higher ups have got jobs to do. They're looking for, did they memorize every problem or every puzzle? Do they close or do they close every open brace? So that's the kind of people they want to avoid. The interview is looking for experience and ability to reason through a complex issue in real time. It's hard to fake. I just did a video on that. Okay. Again, this Handy Crisis or whatever user, it probably is the author of this book. Let's go over the book here now. Um, so the book is here, Cracking the Coding Interview, 150 programming questions and interviews. Now with 74% more content, including hints and 40 plus new questions. And again, you got to prove to the interviewer that you know how to code, as it says here in this comment here. Uh, Looking for experience and the ability to reason on the fly or real time. If you can't do that, don't pursue it. But I know people still do it. That's fine. Not a recruiter, software developer. This is the author now. Write flawless code on a whiteboard. Usually it's C or C++ is the place to go to learn all that. This sixth edition, Cracking the Code interviews, what you need to know. And again, I have no affiliation with this person. Hidden details in the question, how to break down the problem with manageable chunks, develop techniques to unstuck yourself when stuck. And that's when the interview will know. And they'll hammer on at that. Learn or relearn core computer science concepts and practice the 189, wow, 189 interview questions. And that does not even scrape the bottom of the barrel on what they can ask you and the solutions to it. So, interview questions are real, not pulled from computer source textbooks and probably leak code as well. Reflect truly what's being at the top of companies and you can be prepared. So 189 programming interview questions, trickiest algo problems, and they can get probably trickier. Walk through how to derive each solution so you can learn how to get there yourself. How to solve 189 questions, blah, blah, blah. 5 proven strategies to tackle algo questions so you can solve them you have not seen. Extensive coverage of essential topics. These are the big ones. And again, only really, I guess, Java, C, maybe Python can cover. Big O time, data structures, another big one. Core algorithms. When in my day, core algorithms were just basically sorting algorithms. Now it's like, I don't even know what, it's probably times 1,000 that. Behind the scenes of how top companies like Google and Facebook hire developers. I mean, this person worked there. Techniques to prepare for an A soft side of the interview, behavioral questions. That's another big one. They want to know that you communicate, and most likely, I will assume. Now, again, I can't really say this, but the highest paying jobs are going to be in the States and kind of UK as well. So, English language will also be a part of that process. So, you got to be very good at. And a lot of people that are brought up locally in North America, in the West generally, where English is uh, their first language, they're going to get first crack at because they know the language really good. Details on what makes a good interview question and hiring process. So, contents. Probably pretty vast. All relative, frequently asked questions. So here you go. All the interviews behind Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, Facebook, Palantir. Those are your top tech, highest paying out there outside of Wall Street. Special situations, program managers, dev managers, testers, SEDET. Right here, how much you need to know for startups, dev lead, manager, acquisition, uh, inquirer, interviewers, testers, experienced candidates. Before the interview, you need to know you got the show you have the right experience. Okay, describes what a software engineer's resume should look like and what you need to be doing well before the interview. You've got to have a good network. Usually, top-notch recruiters are that network because they're your gateway into the top companies. And having a preparation map. Now, again, behavioral preparation is another one that's pretty interesting. Your English, especially if you're applying for a Western English-speaking country, your language has got to be number one, 100%. Um, I think there's tolerances there, but again, think about it this way: if you got the technical skill, you got the math skill, you got the trading experience. Along comes somebody who's got all the same as you, but has the language down. Just the reality. So um, I'm only saying that because a lot of people think that they can again hide behind cameras and thinking it's okay to get these interviews and get past those interviewers. They're not. If you do that, it comes down to a distrust problem. So you got interview preparation grid, technical projects, responding to behavioral projects, and tell me about yourself. Oh, that one. I think your GitHub should pretty well explain that because the usual tell me about yourself's like dating, I guess. I don't know. Big O. So this is the big one. A lot of people don't really pay attention to this. Um, so critical for an interview, and it's the basics of any interview I've come across. Be able to show efficiency of the algorithm, analog time complexity, space complexity, drop the constant, drop the non-dominant term, multi-part algo, amortized time, log n runtime, recursive. Recursive is the one that is the one that people like to trip people up on. Examples and exercise. So, okay, let's continue here. So, technical questions plus 5 algo approaches. Now, this is really going to be needed on your Wall Street, City of London type of firms. How to prepare, what you need to know, walking through the problem, looking for a bud, DIY, do it yourself, simplify and generate, best case and build, data structure, best conceivable runtime, handling incorrect questions. When you heard the question before, perfect language for interviews. Personally, I would say Python should be good enough if you're fairly new. Well, not new, but mid range, we'll call it. Ultimately, if you can use C and C, that's when you're going to really impress people. And that will put you not over the edge, but that will probably put you in the top, for sure, top 10%. Because it's going to, what these interviews are trying to eliminate are the lazy ones. And I would say you'd be looking at 75% like that. When what good coding looks like. Now, again, that depends. That's a big one because if you got the juniors, they'll say, "Oh, comments are no good." If you're dealing with the mid to senior, they want comments and the right kind of comments. They're not looking for, "Have you written a War and Peace on a one line of code?" They're looking for something that's, I've said it before, mnemonic. I put up a code walkthrough on another video platform to not be put on YouTube because I was being straight up and YouTube did not deem it safe. So it's on that platform. Yes, don't give up if you really want these jobs because they are looking for people with motivation that are highly motivated, initiative, original, thinking out of the box. Especially at the Wall Street firms, they don't want just mediocre folks. And even if they get mediocre folks, they're the first ones out the door when the AI comes knocking, or the uh, there's just general layoffs. So again, this is another thing that I think is very important. A lot of us don't know, including me. Handling offers and rejection, evaluating the offer. From what I understand about evaluating offers, they only give you now a couple of hours or maybe 24 hours. If you're really top notch and they know it, you're coming out of a place like Harvard and MIT level schools. The first question is, have you got offers on the table? And then the offer will come in. Do you have other offers on the table? And that can give you a lot of leverage, including which will give you higher compensation, like 20%. And it's kind of like going in a bidding war on selling a house, negotiating and being on the job. Very, very powerful stuff. Okay, so here we are. 189 questions and answers. This is the bulk of the book. Discussion of core knowledge and strategies to tackle this type of question. Okay, so these are the basics. So this is, C sharp will cover this, Python will cover this, but just remember the difference between a compiled language and an interpreted language. When you're looking at the languages C++ and Java, you're looking at compiled languages. So they will handle all of this differently. As it said, your end target should be these languages, C and C++. Nothing wrong with Java. I've done 7 years of Java. Just I'm seeing more and more C++ jobs than Java. Again, I'm only specifically talking in the scope of finance, Wall Street, high paying, algo trading, HFT type of jobs, and quant as well. So here's what we got to know about arrays and strings, linked links, stacks, queues, trees and graphs. These four can be found in Python, no problem there. Okay, like those are fairly easy to know, fairly easy to master. If you want my honest approach, you'd probably want to look at either C sharp or Java to learn this stuff and kind of get better at it. But now, when you start to get into the bit manipulation, that's when you start using the low level features of specifically C and maybe C++ as well. You can do that sort of thing in Java, but comparatively to C and C++, I think jobs that are high paying will want to know how you handle bit manipulation within the C and C++. So C and C++ is your way to go, and not doing it on Mac OS or Windows. You have to learn how to do this in the world of Linux, and Linux that's headless, meaning just the GUI, just the no GUI, no graphical user interface, just the CLI, the command prompt. That's it. Math and logic puzzles, again, if you follow the C style and Kerningham and Ritchie, this was written before object oriented programming came along. Many firms in HFT use their own how internally home developed frameworks. Okay, they're not using third party. They may use a fix engine, but generally their own algorithms and house of models are probably going to be built in house. Okay, so you got to follow that, and usually that's going to be in the world of C and C++. There's going to be the world of FPGA and even assembler. I wouldn't go down the path of FPGA or uh, assembler because those are people that already have years experience working in a HFT environment or a hedge fund environment for years, and they already know C and C++. So they're already well into the FPGA knowledge, well into the assembler knowledge. So I wouldn't worry about going down the path of FPGA. I'm more focused on C and C++. Again, I just mentioned object-oriented design. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, object-oriented design and object-oriented programming is dead." Yes, as a fundamental thing you need to know as when it comes to classes, inheritance, all that. And the top three languages to know there is in C sharp, Java, or C++. My opinion, go with Java because it's supporting as well in Linux. When you get into the .NET stuff and the Windows stuff, there's less and less of it. And especially in the world of finance, the high-end jobs are in the world of Linux. So You want to stick to the language that are as close to Linux as possible. And again, .NET, C Sharp, all those, anything micro under the Microsoft realm, nothing wrong with it. But if you want to get the jobs faster and get to that path quicker, learn the Linux friendly stuff and learn Linux itself, the shell programming language, as well as, or just shell scripting is another big benefit. Perl, I don't see a lot of, but just other recommendations. And again, recursion and dynamic programming. This is critical for areas to trip people up. Recursion is important in the world of C, Java, because they want to test to see if you know what you're really doing in the world of programming. I don't know if Leak and Leak Code and all these others cover that, but I wouldn't be surprised that they will throw in recursion because a lot of people don't focus on that, but that's important as well because that's probably where you're going to blow up the stack on your little application that you're supposed to be writing. And that's what they don't want. That's what the recruiters don't want to know and don't want to see. And usually a lot of these coders that doing interviews know their stuff. Don't think they're well, I couldn't say that because HR, well, we already know. And they're just resorting on some third party test. There's going to be some point you're going to be tested at that. And even if you get in the job, if you don't know this, you're not going to last in the job and you won't last in the career as well. Okay, sorting and searching, those are just basic, uh, usually basic interview questions at the first cut. But this is where it gets really tricky. Scalability and memory limits, especially if you're going into like quant related or HFT related. If you don't know either or and well, you should know and as well. Scaling is very important in application, specifically when it comes to C++. Yeah, you got to know that. And we already know the limitations of Python. Can't really scale. And yeah, there's going to be people that argue that. That's fine. Let them. I don't care. But we're talking about in the realm of high paying quant HFT jobs. And believe me, they will be looking for scalability in the languages of usually C or C++, on top of memory limits, how you handle a stack, how you handle is it code efficient to be able to use the right type of memory, L2, L3, well, I can't remember, L1 level, and the different caches and da da da. I mean, it's really low level stuff. Testing, I don't think is as important. Probably is with the universal or user acceptance testing and other tools like Selenium would help. And again, I've already talked about the languages here. The databases is helpful too. That might not be so much, but what they may look at is your SQL knowledge, your SQL knowledge. You can argue to the cows come home on what database. It doesn't really matter. Um, and they may want to know about your message queuing on what database is the correct way. I would suggest Redis here is a good one because Redis is an in-memory database, and knowing the different patterns that make coding with something like Redis can help. And I think that's really all you need to know. And use something like Postgres as well, because Postgres is everywhere in startups. So that's good to know. Again, another very, 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 very important element for C and C++ is threads and locks. Again, that's in realm of that. You need to understand this for C++, specifically in C plus and C, because remember C++ and C are languages that you don't have a garbage collector. You don't have some form of memory management as part of the language and the compiler. This is where you got to do it on your own, and you got to show the recruiters that you know what you're doing here. Assorted moderate problems, assorted hard problems. Again, these are the extras that get you into senior. When you move into senior roles, where the big bucks are, like beyond 500,000 and the like, or even more important, and going into CTO levels, you better be a master at these levels. Otherwise, they're not going to consider you, and you will get burnt in the interviews pretty quickly. So it has the widest degree of readability, solutions almost entirely written with Java, with the exception of C or C++ questions. That's important because I think those two are your best best paths after learning the basics of Python with these three I've mentioned here: arrays, strings, linked lists, stacks, queues, trees. that's all fine uh, for, for Python, and then you get into the C lower level coding with C and C++, and Java can do it as well. And as I said, specifically in the world of Linux. Okay, so they have uh, code. There's an actual GitHub out there that you can look at. Fifth edition includes over 200 pages of new content, bringing the book from 300 to 500 pages. Books like this has got to be on the level of the complete end-to-end Wilmot Quant series. There's like 3 books, I believe, and they cover about 1,800 pages. This type of topics is career and throughout your entire career over however long, 30, 40 years in programming, just the basics of the programs, which came out of the 80s and still is dominant. There's no lazy approach to this, unfortunately. So there's some benefits here. Chapters under technical questions, 24 new questions were added, blah, 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 blah. Most expansive, detailed guide on how to ace your software development and programming interviews. So again, reading what I'm seeing here, I'm not sure if the leak coding and algo was it expert websites will help. I think learning the more primitive basics of how to build an algorithm that's bare bones on the metal, as they call it, to really move into the high level, high tier trading jobs or trading algo trading jobs, HFT jobs as well. Okay, so we got the what's new solutions here. I'm not going to get into this because a lot of it's already covered. New strategy for solving algo questions. Again, this is going to be very, very helpful for those wanting to get into trading as well. Interview prep coaching over the last few years and develop some new techniques. Uh, Fewer prerequisites. Under the impression that my readers were all computer science degree holders. Uh, I didn't dumb it down in the book, but I did take the time to explain some topics that people without degrees who are just rustier on these topics and might not be comfortable with. Okay, this last part here is really geared towards old fogies like me as well, which is fine. I think that's good. But now notice she has not mentioned um, AI at all in these books. This book is not for quant as well. So there's lots still to learn. But again, if you're highly motivated, you can learn that. But this is a good book for this. System design, trees, and graphs. Now, graphs is an important one now in the world of AI with graph databases coming into play um, in advanced topics in the book. So that's becoming a little more modern, dare I say. Um, yeah, so I'm not going to go through the table of contents. Here are your, here is your um, different editions. Let me just take a look. Let me see the latest. As they said, it was Java, Groovy, Haskell, Java. Um, wow, a lot of languages are covered, but depending upon where you want to go, and again, this is for algo trading, HFT related, C++, C, Java. It's probably most of the coverage there. And you got all the different ones. All these other ones, I don't see a lot of job descriptions that say, yeah, we want this or this or this. So there's that. Okay, so coming back to this book here. Um, so yeah, it's some of the books that I would look at. How to, and you can see when you're using Eclipse, that's usually Java that you're using. Resources. This is pretty good. What a good resume should look like, and I'm sure this is still relevant. Um, and all that. So leave it at that. And then here's the author as well. So there's that. Okay, so leave it at that. And again, if you want to know more about the trading view, if you're not interested in any of this, is automated trading. Yeah. Go here, quantlabsnet.com, choose to learn, sign up, boom, boom, boom. You're on your way. All right. Thanks for watching.